back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And what is going on, full-time family? It's time! Sorry if that was a little bit loud, but yo, we are 1 day away from Kevin Lee vs. Iaquinta 2, and I cannot wait because I am low-key a huge fan of Kevin Lee. Some of you might know, you might have picked on to it, you might not, you know what I'm saying? But I am. I fucking am. I feel like I'm coming out of the closet. No hetero. No, I'm just kidding. But I know Kevin Lee does get a bad rap. Some people say he's cringy and whatnot, and I know some of the full-time family feels that way. But your boy Big Full-Time, I gotta let you know. Big fan, and I think Kevin Lee's gonna have a phenomenal performance. But yo, let's not get ahead of ourselves because Iaquinta's already beat Kevin Lee one time in the past. It was Kevin Lee's UFC debut, so we'll see if that happens in round number 2, the second fight. Of course, okay, I'm not gonna explain that. I was saying not round 2, like literally in the fight, but you get the point. Kevin Lee, Iaquinta 2, going down December 15th. Right now it's December 14th, but guys, this is gonna be a little bit longer of a video, because we're also going to get to some Bellator breakdowns and predictions. So guys, bear with me. This I am not going to separate these because I got to go to work a little later today. Don't got a lot of time. I'm doing these actually after my work shift. And we're also going to be doing a live panel today. So you'll probably be watching this before or after the panel. But Friday, December 14th, not only is there going to be a Bellator card, and unfortunately guys, I'm not going to be able to do a fight companion tonight for this card because I've got to work, but tomorrow we will be doing a fight companion for UFC Fight Night, Kevin Lee vs. Iaquinta 2. So a lot of fights going down this weekend. Let's talk about them. Let's talk a little Bellator. I didn't break these fights down near as much as I did the UFC fights, but let's talk about the main card. I am interested in 3 of these Bellator fights tonight, so we're going to talk about Bellator first because that's going on today. And then we'll talk about the UFC fight. So you can skip to wherever you want in the video if you're just looking for the predictions, or stay tuned as we get into these fights. Alright, we're going to speed through Bellator. I was just going to do the first 3 fights, but we'll have a little fun, maybe a little bit of comedy in this. If you're looking for a technical breakdown of Lara versus Juliana Vasquez, that's not what you're about to get. You're about to get a quick off-the-wall before-work prediction for this fight because honestly, I don't got enough time to give too many fucks, and I'm not going to be watching it. So, what we're going to be doing, family, in this fight, we got 7-0 Juliana Vasquez taking on 7-2 Alejandra Lara, fighting out of Colombia. She's taking on Juliana Vasquez, fighting out of Brazil in Bellator's 125-pound flyweight division. Who you guys got in this fight? Let me know. And like I said, if you guys want a technical breakdown, though, one place you can potentially check is my motherfucking dog, CSH Combat Sports. He will break down some WMMA for your ass. Make sure you go check him out and subscribe over there to the coach. Who am I taking in this fight? I'm taking a simple approach for this one. I'm going Alejandra Lara. You might say, why? Well, because I don't think I've watched any of these girls' fights, and Alejandra Lara is a baddie, and she's fighting out of Colombia. So that's why she's getting the nod in this fight. Like I said, not the most technical breakdown for this one. I was just going to skip it. So it is a fight on the main card. So there you go. There you go. I got Alejandra Lara. That's who Big Full-Time's rocking with. This fight, can't really judge this one off of who's bad or not. No hetero. Derek Campos is taking on he's 19-7, taking on Sam Cecilia, who's 16-9. This fight's going to be contested at featherweight. In this fight, sorry guys, I'm not going to be watching. I'm not breaking this one down. It's not one of the ones that I was really motivated to do the research on. So I'm just going to give the edge to fucking, I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter, man. I'm not going to go off who's bad in this one. Just Derek Campos. He's got more experience. I mean, and yeah, that's literally about it. I don't know much about these guys, so I apologize if you're looking for a technical breakdown of Derek Campos versus Sam Cecilia. We're going to get into the technical breakdowns coming up after this. This is the second fight on the prelims. I got Derek Campos just because he's more experienced. I do like Sam Cecilia's beard, though, so there's a positive. All right, guys. I probably shouldn't even have broke those fights down because I feel like that was trash. Well, Maybe the Lara one was funny at least. But whoo, shouldn't have did that one. Alright, let's get into AJ McKee. I don't know much about Daniel Crawford. You know, he's probably making his Bellator debut. I've never heard the name, so I believe he's probably making his Bellator debut. But I do know about motherfucking AJ McKee. AJ McKee has a great fight team. He trains with Aaron Pico and others. AJ McKee and Aaron Pico are probably two of Bellator's best prospects they have on their roster. Now, AJ McKee and Aaron Pico are teammates, so they would never fight each other. I think AJ McKee said he would like rather retire than fight his teammate Aaron Pico, which is kind of cool because they got that brotherhood. They're both up-and-coming fighters, just tremendous fighters, and so that's why I'm for sure giving the edge to AJ McKee. He's pretty much dominated every single opponent he's fought in Bellator, and I expect that to stay true throughout this fight. This guy could potentially be a future featherweight champion in Bellator. Problem is, he's fighting in the same division as Aaron Pico currently, but I do believe Pico has flirted with lightweight and featherweight, so I mean, it would be interesting because both of these guys have the potential to be champions, but they're not going to fight each other. It could be a situation where, you know, they're stepping on each other's toes. Maybe one guy's got to go to another division. We saw that with like Daniel Cormier. He didn't move up to heavyweight until Cain Velasquez was, you know, injured, out of the title picture, because he didn't want to fight his teammate. That's one of his best friends and teammates, Cain Velasquez. I'll move down to light heavyweight, take this belt, and when you're done, then I'll move up. So that could be a situation in play here, but either way, I'm for sure taking AJ McKee to win this fight. Now let's move to the co-main event of Bellator, going down today actually, which is why I wanted to get this done. Frank Mir taking on Javy Ayala. We're going to do a little bit of looking into this one, guys. Javy Ayala, you can see right here on Tapology.com, is 10-7 in his professional MMA career, and he's currently coming off of a 2-fight losing streak to Czech Congo and Roy Nelson, both two very talented heavyweights, and he defeated Sergey Karatonov and Roy Barton in his first two Bellator wins right here. Well, not his first two Bellator wins, but his most recent two Bellator wins. So he's 2-2 in his last 4 Bellator fights, and he's taking on the former UFC champion and heavyweight legend Frank Mir. This guy's been known as one of the best heavyweight grapplers for quite some time now. Faced a little bit of suspension at the end of his UFC career. I actually believe it was like tainted horse meat, he said. You know how that goes, but I mean, it is what it is. Now he's in Bellator, you know what I'm saying, and he's doing his thug dizzle. Now he did lose his Bellator debut though to Fedor Emelianenko, but that's one of the heavyweight goats he fought there. And it was a really close fight. I believe he rocked Fedor before ultimately getting knocked out. Like, that was a first round finish, but it was whoever got knocked out won the fight. And I'm going off my memory, and my memory's coming back to me because I recently quit smoking weed, so I'm remembering a little better. But salute to all the potheads out there. But I believe Frank Mir had Fedor rocked and in trouble in that first round before ultimately getting finished himself. So Frank Mir's still dangerous. When he left the UFC, he was on a 2-fight losing streak, and he was a little inactive after his fight with Mark Hunt due to that suspension. But now he's back, and will he get the win in this fight? Honestly, I can't be super confident because I believe Frank Mir is 40. No, he's 39 years old, so not quite 40 yet. He is, you know, a little older, but for heavyweights, that's really not much. I mean, you see heavyweights fighting until they're 44, 43, so I think Frank Mir's still got a few good years in him if he wants to remain fighting, which clearly he does because he's fighting. And he's also got a dope podcast and stuff like that, so he's going to fight, you know, for just as long as he wants. I don't believe Frank Mir's someone that needs to, but I think that matters because Frank Mir, you know, the reason that you're fighting kind of matters when you're an older heavyweight. If you're fighting because you need the money, I'm a little skeptical, like, ooh, maybe this isn't going to go too good. But if you're fighting because that's what's in you and you want to fight, like Frank Mir, because his podcast's pretty successful, he's had some commentating gigs, pretty sure he's got a little bit of, he probably doesn't need to do this, which means his heart is in it, his head is in it. He's going to come in here looking for that win. And honestly, as a fan of Frank Mir, that's who I'm picking to win this fight, because not only do I believe his head is in the game and he's only here because he wants to fight, Javy Ayala's never fought anyone, I believe, on the level of Frank Mir currently to date. Now, it's a heavyweight fight. Javy might be able to catch Frank Mir, of course, always. Knockout, I mean, a submission, anything's possible. I doubt he'll submit Frank Mir for sure. I doubt that. But he could catch him, knock him out. Big boy, A lot of weight behind those punches. If he connects it could be over. But Frank Mir's got a lot more experience against the best heavyweights in the world. And honestly, I'm looking for him to get back on the winning track. He lost to Fedor, was riding a 2-fight losing streak when he left the UFC, but he can definitely pick up a win. And I think this might be the fight for it. And I hope it is, because if Frank Mir can beat Javy Ayala, then he could potentially move on to some more of those little like Bellator super fights, right? Like Frank Mir versus Fedor is actually a tremendous fight. Like, of course, it would have been awesome if it happened like 5 years ago, but still, that was a great fight. I'd like to see Frank Mir versus, you know, these other heavyweights that maybe not necessarily Fedor, but you got other heavyweights in Bellator. A lot of guys, you know, the Bobby Lashleys, the fucking Chet Congos, the Roy Nelsons, you know, there's just a lot of heavyweights that Bellator has to work with that you could build some fights. You know, look at the heavyweight Grand Prix, the Fedors, you know, the Ryan Baders, the Matt Mitriones, all of these guys, you know, would be good fights for Frank Mir, I believe. But he'll have to get back on the winning track to do that. So I'm taking Frank Mir, but it's a heavyweight, so anything can happen. Moving on to the main event of Bellator. Let's hurry up and get this out the way so we can get to the UFC. Maybe I shouldn't have did this. People probably already clicked off the video like, what the fuck is this Bellator shit, dog? Holy smokes, we might just separate these now. All right, guys, let's do it. Let's do it. Brent Primus, Michael Chandler. Let's make it quick. Boom. I'm taking Michael Chandler. Brent Primus beat Michael Chandler in the first fight. This is a rematch, but in the first fight, Michael Chandler had like an ankle injury really early in the first round. Since then, he's beat like 3 other people. Brent Primus hasn't fought since then. Weird things going on, like Michael Chandler, I believe, said Brent Primus didn't want to fight, then Brent Primus said Michael Chandler didn't want to fight, then you know, vice versa. Well, I don't know who you want to believe, but I'm just believing Michael Chandler for the simple fact that he's been fighting in the meantime. He's fought a few guys since then. He hasn't just been waiting on the title shot and stuff like that. And Brent hasn't been defending his title. He's 8-0, he's undefeated, but Michael Chandler's been known as one of the best lightweights in the world since even really before Bellator was stepping up to the big stage. Everyone knew of Michael Chandler and his wars with Eddie Alvarez and his reign as the Bellator lightweight champion. So Michael Chandler's a tremendous fighter, 18-4. I mean, he's almost got 3 times the professional experience as Brent. I'm taking Chandler to get his belt back, man, and end this shit once and for good. Will we see a trilogy? Who knows? Maybe Michael Chandler doesn't want to give him one immediately because of all the bullshit he had to go through to get this title shot again. But we'll see, man. I think Michael Chandler gets the W. Now let's move on to the UFC. Kevin Lee versus Iaquinta. This is going to be a 4-fight main card, you guys. Starting off with Jim Miller versus Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Now here we go. Now I got a breakdown for y'all's ass. This is the fights that this is what we're here for, guys. These fights are going down tomorrow. 4-fight main card. The last UFC on Fox event. After this is going to be UFC on ESPN. This is the last big Fox event. And usually the UFC stacks these big Fox cards. Now, this one is stacked for us hardcore fans. And the main event's going to be great. So let's get straight into it. Jim Miller versus Charles Oliveira. All right. Jim Miller recently snapped a 4-fight losing streak when he submitted Alex White in the first round. He's got 41 professional fights, and this will be his 30th fight in the UFC. Charles do Bronx Oliveira is a little younger and less experienced than Jim Miller, but even at 29 years old already has 32 pro fights and 21 fights in the UFC. Charles Oliveira is 3-1 in his last 4 fights, earning a submission in all 3 wins, only losing to Paul Felder via second round KO TKO. So you might be asking, well, who are you going to pick in this fight? I'm taking do Bronx. I'm picking Charles Oliveira to win this fight. Jim Miller, with his experience, you can never fully count him out. He's an extremely dangerous submission artist, but Jim's going against another very dangerous grappler, so it's not like he has a decisive advantage on the ground in this fight, like he may have had against Alex White, who he submitted. Jim Miller is as tough as they come, and he's an amazing fighter, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he announced his retirement after this fight, because he's been battling Lyme disease, I believe, for the last few years, and it really seems to have taken a toll on his fighting career. I believe it, causes fatigue, among other things, and it's just unfortunate for such a great fighter, because it seems to have dampened his career, as he went on a little bit of a losing streak, but like I said, he snapped that with his recent win. Now, I'm taking Charles Oliveira, though, because all the reasons I just mentioned, dangerous everywhere. He's experienced, a lot of UFC experience. He's not a guy making his UFC debut that, you know, you can kind of count on that experience to win the fight in this one. So yeah, I got Charles Oliveira, man. Moving on to the next fight, we got a bantamweight fight. Ooh, this one's hard to call for me, man. Rob Font versus Sergio Pettis, but we're going Sergio. We're going Sergio, man, and this one's tough because this fight's not at flyweight, and that's Sergio Pettis' natural division. Hard fight to call. I feel like Sergio Pettis literally just crossed the threshold as one of the best flyweights in the world, and now that he did, the UFC's potentially folding the flyweight division, which sucks. So, Sergio moved up to the 135-pound division, and now he's fighting top 15 ranked fighter Rob Font. Rob Font has fought all 8 of his UFC fights at bantamweight, and he's finished all 5 of his UFC wins. He's currently ranked number 11 in the bantamweight division, going 1-1 in his last 2 fights. He recently lost to number 3 ranked Rafael Assunção, but before that, he had just knocked out Thomas Almeida in the first round. So, dangerous bantamweight, but Sergio Pettis, I'm giving him the call. He's a really good fighter and one of the top 5 flyweights in the world. He's also going to be fighting in front of his home crowd. I'm not sure how he'll do against a top-ranked bantamweight, but I'm going to give him a slight edge. I think he'll be able to edge out a decision in this fight if he doesn't get caught. The only way I really see Rob Font winning this fight is if he can get a finish, and that's a very real possibility. But Sergio Pettis is no geek off the streets, you know what I'm saying? Like he's had a legit fight team and a fight. He's been, you know, his brother Anthony Pettis was a lightweight champion when he was still on the come up. So he's been training with, of course, a legit fight team throughout his whole fight career. He's been raised up in the UFC. He crossed that threshold as one of the best flyweights in the world, and he's not somebody that's going to be just easy to finish. He's got that experience, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to give him the edge, and I really think if this goes to decision, it's not necessarily even going to be a robbery. He could legit just outfight Rob Font if this fight goes to decision and win a unanimous decision. But that's also another possibility. He could get the robbery split decision being in his hometown. You know what I'm saying? So that's also a real possibility. But I'm really looking forward to the fight. I'm giving a slight edge to Sergio Pettis. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening. Whoo-wee. We got some motherfucking lightweight motherfuckers throwing down. Excuse the profanity, but these dudes are killers. Who am I taking, you might be asking? Let me think. I got Edson, guys. I'm going with Edson Barboza, but man, I've counted out Dan Hooker before and it didn't go well because clearly he's riding a 4-fight winning streak. I think somebody's going to sleep in this fight. I'll tell you this much, man. Edson Barboza ranked number 5 currently in the stacked lightweight division. Dan Hooker ranked number 14. I'm almost more confident in predicting this fight ends in a KO than I am predicting the winner, but I don't know. I really think someone could go to sleep in this fight, but I mean, I guess I could see a decision. I mean, the Thiago Santos fight versus Jimmy Manuwa, you know, that's how I felt in that fight. I was more confident predicting a finish than the winner. Here, I almost feel that way, but I guess I could see this going to decision. But this is going to be, I believe, a striking affair, and Edson Barboza is one of the most lethal strikers in the UFC with some of the most dangerous kicks in the division. He's also been ranked in the top of this stacked lightweight division for the last year or so, which is super impressive because the 155-pound division is one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC. All that being said, Dan Hooker is a motherfucker. This dude is currently riding a 4-fight winning streak, finishing each of his opponents in those fights. He knocked out Ross Pearson, Jim Miller, Gilbert Burns, and submitted Mark Giacchese. I'm going to be giving Edson Barboza the edge in this fight. I feel like he's been fighting higher level competition in his career, and this isn't a terrible matchup for him like his last 2 fights against Khabib Nurmagomedov and Kevin Lee. I think Edson wins this fight as long as he avoids getting knocked out, but that is a real possibility in this fight against the dangerous Dan Hooker. Now, even though that is a possibility, I've got to pick Edson Barboza to win this fight. He's been fighting the top lightweights in the world for the last 4 years, so I got Edson in the co-main event. Get back on that winning track. Moving on to the main event of the evening. We got Kevin Lee versus Raging Al Iaquinta. And boy, goddamn, if you don't remember from the beginning of the show, I'm going with the motherfucking Motown phenom, Kevin Lee. Holy smokes, I can't wait for this fight. My favorite fight of the weekend, probably. Kevin Lee, I'm a big fan. I don't know if you guys know that. You should, some of you. But maybe I haven't been as open about it. You know what I'm saying? Well, who knows? I mean, I'm pretty sure I have. I've talked definitely about his ability to set up his wrestling with his striking, to set up his jiu-jitsu with his fucking wrestling. Kevin Lee is a phenom. I mean, not just the Motown phenom, he's a phenom. And I believe when you watch Kevin Lee fight, you're looking at the new era of MMA. I don't want to say the future of MMA because there's always going to be new guys. You got Aaron Picos and AJ McKees and, you know, the Sean O'Malley's and the Zabits. Like, there's always going to be a new era and new and improved fighters. But Kevin Lee is also one of those guys. I mean, when you think about 5-10 years ago, you know, Kevin Lee is the new era past then. Like, he's the now generation. He's not the future generation. Kevin Lee is the now, I believe. He can be a champion if he gets the shot. He's working on getting that shot, and I don't think it's going to be too far away. Maybe one more fight, maybe 2 more fights. But Kevin Lee, I do believe, will be fighting for UFC Gold in 2019. Or if not, man, early 2020. Like, he's getting real fucking close. Now, let's get into this fight. Fucking can't wait. Iaquinta beat Kevin Lee almost 5 years ago in Kevin Lee's UFC debut, and he's since then went 5-2 in the UFC. Iaquinta is 1-1 in the last 3.5 years. He knocked out Diego Sanchez after losing a title fight to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Well, he fought Khabib after Diego, so he knocked out Diego Sanchez, and then he lost to Khabib at UFC 223 in the main event of Madison Square Garden after the McGregor-Dolly madness. Khabib's original opponent got injured. Max Holloway forced to stop cutting weight, needed a new opponent. Half the card got fucking scrapped because Conor threw a dolly. 4 fights were canceled. They needed a new fighter for the main event. Iaquinta had to jump in that joint and short notice fight fucking Khabib. Didn't have much of a chance in the fight, but at least he made it to decision. I mean, that's impressive. You get thrown in there with fucking one of the best lightweights in the world on short notice. Like, that's impressive that Iaquinta was able to make it to decision, especially given, you know, like, his inactivity. Like, Iaquinta's a great fighter. He's a cool guy, you know, does real estate, so he doesn't need to fight. But with that being said, the fact that he doesn't need to fight, he doesn't fight that much. I mean, he can have a fight scheduled and be like, yeah, I'm not feeling it actually. Like, yeah, I know I signed the contract, but I thought about it. Fuck you guys. Like, there's been times, like, I believe when he was scheduled to fight James Vick, like, they agreed to it and stuff. Then he was like, nah, shit came up. I think I'm actually good on that one. Like he'll just pull out of a fight. Something like might be an injury. I'm sure he's been injured and pulled out of a fight before, but he's just a guy that makes it clear he's got options. Everybody knows about Rachel now, real estate, you know, realty. Iaquinta does good there, and I'm actually happy that he has that opportunity outside of fighting, because when you're somebody that's just forced to fight for a living and that's all you've got going for yourself, you kind of have to play the cards you're dealt. You don't get to make those correct business decisions for your future as a fighter. You can't take the correct fights. You have to kind of take what's given to you. So it's really hard to move up through the division and become a potential champion when you're forced to take every fight, you know, because that's how you feed your family. You've got no other option. So that's solid. I'm glad Iaquinta has that option. But with that being said, like I said, he's 1-1 in the last 3.5 years. He's only fought twice in like 3 years, and it's because he doesn't really need too much. But Kevin Lee, since losing to Iaquinta, is 10-2, so he's fought quite a bit more, been a little more active. He's done nothing but constantly improve since that fight. Kevin Lee's legitimately one of the best lightweights in the world, in my opinion. And I don't know if Iaquinta's going to be able to keep this fight close, if I'm honest. Al is a cool dude, like I said, good fighter. I'm not sure if he's one of the best lightweights in the world right now, though. And Kevin Lee is on Khabib's heels. I'm not going to turn this into a Kevin Lee love affair, no hetero. But I'm low-key a huge fan of Kevin Lee. This dude's not only one of the best lightweights in the world, also one of the most well-rounded fighters out there. I've watched just about every one of his UFC fights, and the improvements he's made in his game from fight to fight, they're monumental, man. When he fought Iaquinta, it was his UFC debut. He didn't even have a real fight team at the time. He moved to Vegas after that fight to train MMA full-time, or should I say Full-Time MMA with a real fight team, and he's done pretty much everything right since then. I could go on and on about Kevin Lee. He uses his striking to set up his takedowns, which sets up his jiu-jitsu, or about how he's on Khabib's heels. He's been calling Khabib out since before it was cool, since before he was the champion, and now he's fighting all of Khabib's recent opponents. I believe this is an attempt to further get the Khabib fight. Since calling him out's not working and getting the fight, he's made it a mission to fight whoever Khabib fought and beat them in a more decisive fashion. Khabib brutalized Edson Barboza, but the fight went to decision, and when Kevin Lee fought Barboza, not only did he brutalize him, but he also finished him, and he did the stanky leg in the process for style points. Now he's fighting Iaquinta, who Khabib also took to decision, and I think Kevin Lee's coming for the finish. I predict Kevin Lee to win this fight by KO, TKO, or rear naked choke. And if it's a rear naked choke, watch how he does it. He's going to use his striking to set up a fucking awesomely timed double leg takedown. She's going to shoot for that motherfucker. Once he gets the takedown, he's got phenomenal wrestling. Good luck getting up. He's got two choices. What he usually does is takes that motherfucking back, locks in the body triangle, softens you up, gets the rear naked choke. But he could also just Khabib your shit, bro. He could legit just smash your fucking face on the ground if he doesn't get your back. So, I mean, if you guys ain't on Kevin Lee yet by this point, maybe you don't like his trash talk, but you'll be there soon, and maybe he's just a guy that you root against. But don't matter if you like him or not, the skill sets prove he's one of the best fighters in the stacked lightweight division. This guy could be fighting for a belt sometime soon. I wouldn't be surprised. Not only is he a great fighter, but he talks the talk. Yeah, he's great with the media. He talks trash. I mean, he's willing to do the media, which is awesome. He's not a guy that's like, oh, I don't like talking. Like, no, he's willing to sell a fight, and I think that's dope. So yeah, man, I'm taking Kevin Lee to win this fight, and I think it's actually going to be a finish, no lie. So there it is, man. If it is what it is, make sure you guys tune in to the live show today. It'll probably be going down at about 12 p.m. Eastern time, because I got to do it before work, so I want to make sure we got enough time for that panel. So yeah, man, thank you guys for checking out this video. It is what it is. Let the Full-Time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.